Imagine a cat so weathered and so stubbornly independent that he spent nearly 2 decades roaming the countryside on his own terms. Meet Jim. He's around 20 years old. He has the cheeks of a seasoned tomcat, the soul of an old philosopher, and absolutely zero interest in your opinions about either. And yet, he made the internet fall in love with him.
Jim, smile. Smile, buddy. Smile.
Jim is a gray tabby with magnificent, puffy tomcat cheeks, the first thing anyone notices. He's unneutered because at this point in his life, the vet visit would be more stress than it's worth. And frankly, Jim has retired from the tomcat lifestyle anyway. Chasing cats is not his department anymore. These days, Jim is a farm cat with bigger priorities, like finding the best napping spots and enjoying the new experience of being loved and cared for. For most of his life, this big ball of fur belonged to no one and everyone. He was a traveling man, wandering back and forth between roughly 5 or 6 farms out in the countryside, surviving on instinct, grit, and whatever a feral cat finds when nobody's watching. For 2 decades, he worked that rural circuit like a seasoned professional. Amy's mom was the first to notice him and the first to try to change that. For 10 years, she attempted to catch him. Jim was having none of it. He was feral, sharp, and too clever for traps or patience or kindness offered at arm's length. Whatever life had taught Jim out there on those farms, it had taught him above all else not to trust. So he kept moving, kept surviving, and kept those magnificent cheeks to himself. Then life shifted for everyone involved. Amy's mother had a stroke. Amy herself went through a separation from her husband and eventually moved onto the farm that she and her ex had bought together. It was a chapter full of upheaval and change, the kind that forces you to look at everything differently. And there was Jim, still out there, but things had changed for him too. Another tomcat had muscled him out of the barn. He was getting beaten up. The old road warrior, the cat who had outfoxed everyone for 19 years, was now losing ground. Amy looked at this battered, elderly tabby with an extraordinary face and knew she had to do something. Then Jim had a stroke. It sounds like terrible news, and in one sense it was. But in the strange, winding logic of Jim's life, it may have been the moment that saved him. The stroke slowed him down just enough for Amy to finally catch him. After 20 years of freedom and suspicion and survival, Jim was caught.
Does anyone remember Jim, my feral cat from the summer? Well, here he is.
And here is the part that says everything about who Jim really is underneath all that weathered independence. It only took Amy a month or 2 to tame him. For a cat who had evaded capture for 2 decades, he came around with almost suspicious speed. Amy has a theory about that, and it's hard to argue with. She thinks Jim was ready. She thinks he was tired and old, and somewhere deep down in that enormous battle-scarred heart of his, he had decided he was done running. He was surrendering, not in defeat, but in relief. He had just been waiting for the right person to finally catch up with him. There's something almost unbearably moving about that idea. A creature spending 20 years surviving things no one ever saw, learning through hard experience not to trust, and then, when the time was finally right, choosing to let someone in anyway. That, Amy says, is one of the bravest things there is. So Jim settled into farm life with Amy and many animal friends. He learned that Amy's farm was a safe space and enjoyed a nice, calm life. And then, unexpectedly, he became famous. Amy started sharing him on Instagram, mostly for the people who already knew the farm, but sweet Jim simply took over. She has said that she never in a million years expected this cat to explode her page the way he did, but there's something about Jim that stops people mid-scroll.
Everyone loves you, buddy. Look at that face. Look at that face.
She even has a term she uses for the phenomenon of the farm's Instagram page experiencing significant growth when Jim started showing up, the Jim effect. And she has a strong opinion about why so many people stopped scrolling when they saw Jim and stayed to follow his story. Although his cheeks are extraordinary and his face is the kind of face that demands a second look, Amy doesn't think that's the main reason why people fell in love with this old guy. She says it's not just the big cheeks, it's the soul behind them. People sense it, even through a screen. There's a whole life in that face.
People have fallen in love with him because he's kind of peaceful, and he's kind of the heart of the farm.
Now Jim walks, though only, it should be noted, if there's no one available to carry him. Amy feared he wasn't able to walk, but then she realized he could. He just didn't want to do it all the time. He's had enough of walking and patrolling the area. He has made his feelings about unnecessary physical effort quite clear, and Amy has apparently accepted her role accordingly. This cat discovered the joy of being carried around by a loving human, and he intends to enjoy this opportunity, which came so late in his life, to the fullest. He has treat days. He has best friend status. He runs the farm quietly and with great authority. He brings people and animals on the farm together. He has what Amy calls, with complete sincerity, an old soul. And Jim, for his part, accepts all of this. The love, the attention, the caring, with the dignity of someone who pretended for a very long time not to want any of it. As much as Jim acts like he doesn't like the fuss, Amy is clear on this point. He does. He absolutely does. Who cares if your soulmate doesn't speak your language, Amy says. At least they purr. "20 years of road, 5 or 6 farms, 1 stroke, 1 determined woman, and a pair of cheeks the internet cannot get enough of." That's Jim's story. He didn't have an easy life, but he has a good one now. And if you ask Amy, he always deserved it. Of course he did.
Some people wanted me to squish his cheeks, so I'm gonna squish those. I'm gonna squish those cheeks. Do you think he likes it? Jim. Oh God, I think he loves me.